guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoilery gush of Windwitch by Susan Dennard. As I said, this video will have spoilers in it, so if you've not read this book, go ahead and check out my spoiler-free review, which will be linked on the screen. So I really enjoyed this second installment. I do feel like it kind of halted that forward-moving narrative because there's a lot of things that we just didn't really get to kind of figure out. Like, obviously we had some very side things happening. We have Merrick almost getting blown up at the very beginning, so he's on this new vengeance quest. We have Safi getting kidnapped yet again by people, and her and Vanessa are with the Bards, and so that's a little side thing going on. We have Iseult and Adwin kind of going back and forth and not really moving in any kind of direction. So I do feel like this is a more character-focused and character-driven story in that we're really focusing on all of their motivations moving forward and the different character alliances that we're getting and relationships that are forming and stuff. So I forgive the fact that it's not very forward-moving, but at the end I did feel like I kind of feel like we're in the same spot. We're not, because obviously the characters have grown a lot with this book, but as far as the plot goes, we're sort of in the same spot that we were at the end of the last book in a lot of ways. But let me just talk about the characters, because like I said, it is a very character-driven story, and I'm excited to talk about characters. So I mentioned this in my review. I love that this series is so lady power and like all about like female friendships, and that the characters do not get jealous of one another. Female competition is just not a thing. They recognize when another female character is equally strong or stronger than them. When Safi first sees Vanessa and is talking about her and their kind of unlikely alliance, she's like, Vanessa is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life, and she's like the most powerful witch I've ever encountered, and she's just amazing. And it's just like, they're not necessarily even friends at this point, and Safi's willing to say, she's better than me in a lot of ways, or I feel that she is, you know, more powerful than me or whatever. And it's not a jealousy thing, it's just like, this is a fact that I see in front of me. And it's just so cool between the relationship that Safi and Iseult have, and then all these other characters and all these friendships that are formed. Like, it's just so cool. We have the addition of Vivia as a POV character, and I was not expecting to love her, obviously. In the first book, we have her as this antagonistic character, and you really don't know where she sits, and then we have her being introduced, and you realize that her and Merrick are so similar, so you kind of want to shake both of them, because you're like, you kind of hate each other and you shouldn't, because you're so similar and you're being kept apart for stupid reasons, and you both are thinking alike but have different ways that you want to go about doing these things, and like, you can work together and just do what you want to do, and like, so that was really frustrating. But I love that Vivia is a lesbian princess. God bless. Like, her tension with her first mate and friend is so wonderful, and how she thinks that she's not worthy of her, so I want to kind of get into that and see what exactly the situation is there. But I'm really excited for their relationship to blossom and develop, because obviously towards the end we have the first mate like making advances and kind of being like, yo, I'm down if you're down. So I hope things happen there, because Vivia is an amazing character, and I'm so glad that her and Merrick have kind of built that bridge and like formed that bond again at the end. Like, means a lot to me that they finally came together and realized that the other one is not the villain. Speaking of Merrick, him on his little vengeance quest and being the Fury was just like, like, oh my gosh, I just love him so much. The first time I read Truthwitch, I wasn't as attached to him, and then I reread Truthwitch before reading this, and I got way more attached to him on second reread, and really enjoyed him in this book. Like, I feel for him so much, and I just love him, and I love that he's just so loyal to people, and just what he's going through is obviously really hard. He thinks that he's lost Safi, obviously. He lost Cullen, and then we have everything happening with Cullen, which I knew sort of was going to happen. I didn't know exactly how. Like, I didn't think Cullen was that shadow creature. But when Cullen disappeared into the hurricane in book 1, I was like, he's obviously not dead. Like, he's not dead. He's going to come back, obviously. So with him appearing as this antagonistic character, it's like, what do you do? They know they could potentially save him, so they can't kill him, but he's also doing all these horrible things, probably for the puppeteer, I'm forgetting her name, Esme. So, it's just so painful, but I loved Cam and Merrick's bond. I did mention in my review that in the arc of this, actually, it doesn't really quite confirm that Cam is a trans man, but in the finished copy it does, which I'm really excited about. And I reached out to Susan just to confirm that, because I was like, ooh, I don't know how this is, but they actually printed a copy of the book that for the arc that wasn't where it needed to be with that, because I know this book has had a lot of like problems as far as like coming out and stuff like that. There was a lot of issues, I know, along the road to publishing this. So I'm glad that that all got worked out actually in the final copy, but I think having Merrick as a character who isn't outwardly trying to be rude to Cam, but doesn't understand, and like Cam says to him finally, like, you don't see anything. You only see what you want to see. Like, you're believing that Vivia is the villain who tried to kill you. You're believing that I'm actually a girl, and that's not true. You need to see what's in front of you and stop being so blind and so stupid. And I really love that, and how eventually Merrick does learn that Cam is a man. And he doesn't need to say that just out loud to Cam to make Cam feel better that Cam is a man. So I really enjoyed that, but I do think that some people might be a little sensitive and hurt by that at the beginning, but I think that Susan Dennard did a good job of making sure that that is resolved by the end and isn't like, oh, wait for a few books and then Merrick will get it. Like, she resolves it in this book, which is really good, and she did work with sensitivity readers on that, which I think is awesome, and it's just something that, like, we struggle to see in so many books, and people just getting it wrong, and it's just nice to see somebody like really trying and make a solid effort to do right by these characters. So the Bards were an interesting thing added to the mix that I was not expecting whatsoever, obviously. I knew the Chiseled Cheater was going to come back into things, but I didn't realize that he was obviously going to be a Bard, and they're a little dynamic. I'm torn a little bit because I almost start shipping him and Safi, like, and I'm like, no, Merrick, but like I have moments where I'm like, ooh, this dynamic is really compelling and what's going on with them. And the Bards are really confusing because obviously they keep referencing that like they're already dead and they have these chains on that if they take them off they basically become corrupted and become cleaved. And what does that all mean? And is that similar to what Cullen is going through? I'm sure this is all going to tie in as far as like being able to heal these people and free them, and how exactly does this magic work? And everything like that. They kind of remind me a little bit of the things in Mistborn, the Inquisitors in Mistborn, who kind of have their own kind of magic, and they're kind of made, and they can also kind of counteract people's magic. That's really cool. I really like that. Like, I just love them different kinds of magic in here, and how they can kind of bounce off of one another, and how they can interact and stuff. It's just really cool. But I'm interested to see what happens with them. I wasn't expecting to actually start liking them, obviously, and then I did. As you do. Also, real quick, as far as world building, I love the plethora of beasts we get in this world. I feel like a lot of different higher fantasy series will just shy away from having like really well fleshed out beasts, and I really enjoy the ones that we have in here, and they seem so hokey when you first hear about them, and then they appear and it's like, yes. I really like how the beasts tie into their lore, and although they sound very kind of hokey and weird at first, when they appear they make sense, and they make sense in that world. They're not just a beast that we're used to seeing and that pops up in every fantasy world. They're their own unique thing, and it just makes the world feel that much more real and fleshed out. And now let's just talk about Adowin and Iseult, because they're my favorite. They're my favorite. And when they had to team up, oh my god, my heart stopped. It's just, oh my goodness. I love that they're both Namasti and that they speak their language to each other, and sometimes, like, when he started actually slipping into it and speaking to her in it, like, because my favorite line from the first book is when he says that stuff in Namasti to her. It's just like, oh my god. Oh my god. And can we talk about the, like, hand flex thing? I know I was looking for it because Susan tweeted about it when she was still writing it, but they do, like, a Pride and Prejudice hand flex thing where he has to help her down from like a rock or something, and after she lets go of his hand he kind of like flexes it and is like, oh my god, it just speaks to me on so many levels. Like, I just love them, and her figuring out and embracing her dark side, like cleaving that guy and killing him and just embracing her dark side, figuring out that she's a Weaver Witch, figuring out that she's a Void Witch, and now Adowin knows she's a Void Witch, and now he knows she's part of that Care Arwen stuff. It's so important to me. Like, Iseult is my favorite character, so her embracing her dark side means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. Also, their little thing with Owl and him saving Owl, and then them getting Owl back to where she needs to be together, like basically adopting a little child, like a little special baby who can control like animals and stuff. Oh my god. And like saving her from his evil dad, who like we still haven't figured out a ton about, and that's what I mean about kind of like halting the forward progression of the story, because we still don't know a lot about like the Raider King and like a lot of those things, and like, you know, Safi's stuff with her like family, like all of that stuff kind of got halted. And we do have that little snippet of Adowin trying to track down the like clear lakes and like ice, obviously, which I think is somebody that's tied obviously to Safi, but trying to track down that blood set and not being able to. So that's going to tie in, which is really cool, and I'm just really excited about Aiden and Iseult being like friends, unlikely alliance, strong bond forming. And like he'll be able to help her because she's a Void Witch too, and if she starts losing control of her powers and stuff, or like, you know, kind of going over too far to the dark side or whatever, like he has experience with it, and it's just, oh my god, it means so much to me. I also love that finally at the end we have Safi and Iseult coming back together, Iseult figuring out that she can dreamwalk and using that to communicate with Safi, because one thing I did feel that was missing in here was their bond and their focus. Like, we obviously had Merrick and his friendship with Cullen like being a thing that still pops up, but the whole thing that I love the most about Truthwitch is they're always trying to get back to one another, and they're like so bonded and so together, and you know, they're a thread family, and it's really important. And we still had that element, they were thinking about each other and they saw the stones and stuff, but at the end when they finally get to communicate and catch up, and they get to catch up quickly too, so we don't have like them needing to catch up with each other in the next book, means a lot. So I'm glad that at the end they're finally together, and like, you know, together as far as like mental connection, and they can move forward and figure out what the other one's doing and like plan and stuff, because it makes it a lot easier than like one chasing after the other and stuff happening and everything getting messed up. So I'm really excited about that. So obviously I loved this installment, as I said, and I cannot wait for the next book in the series, the next book being Blood Witch, which is so important to me. I can't. I'm so excited. I want to know more about Awen's backstory. He's my precious baby, and Iseult is my other precious baby, and I just love all these characters in general, and I can't wait. Like, everyone feels that they're going back and doing the things they need to be doing, and on the right path again, and like not meandering as much. So I'm excited to see what happens with the next book. And we have a year to wait. And that hurts me a lot. So comment down below and let me know what you thought of Windwitch. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all you guys soon. Bye!